Media Dialogues in 2022.
25 years of PVR Cinemas and a quarter of a century of massive changes in the movie business. This week, the largest and oldest multiplex chain in India is celebrating its silver jubilee, and that comes on the back of altered audience expectations, the massive popularity and aggressive competition among streaming services, and the merger announced earlier this year with INOX Leisure. On Media Dialogues today, I'm at PVR Director's Cut in Gurgaon to meet Ajay Bijli, the chairman and founder of PVR Cinemas, to find out about post-pandemic opportunities and challenges, as well as life after the merger. Ajay, there's a lot on the plate today, but the first thing is congratulations on these 25 years.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the show.
And quite a milestone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, but it's been a very exciting journey because it's a journey of something that I love doing, but happened pretty fast. Opened our first multiplex in '97. But I started with a single screen cinema, Priya, in 1990.
Yeah.
So if I count those years as 32 years, makes me sound quite old. But yes, it's been exciting. A lot of things changed
and
over the years.
So much has changed.
Yeah.
And yet the magic of the movies is still what it is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We are actually in a week that is the Raksha Bandhan, Muharram, Raksha Bandhan, Independence Day week, isn't it? So
Right.
that's music to an exhibitor's ears, a long weekend.
Absolutely,
What
yeah.
is this week looking like? Because we've got Amir Khan releasing a film after several years, Lal
Yeah.
Singh Chadda. Has there been any impact, you think, of this, the so awful and ridiculous social media attack on him? Is that showing up in the collections, you think?
Till today, the only indications are on the advances,
Yeah.
and advances are extremely strong of both
Yeah.
the movies.
Raksha Bandhan, that's the Akshay
also
Kumar
because although Akshay comes
Yeah.
every quarter,
Yeah.
like we have to release our results every quarter,
And Akshay has a movie
has
every
to
quarter.
release a movie every
Yeah.
quarter, so which is good for us because his movies do well.
Yeah.
So the movie is very topical. So releasing a movie called Raksha Bandhan on Rakhi, you can't get more topical than that. So therefore, that's attracting traction. And of course, Amir only comes with a movie every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So there is always an anticipation which gets built around his releases. So both movies are looking very good. And of course, it's music to our ears. It's a very exciting time because Rakhi is on a Thursday. So the movie is getting released one day prior to the normal Friday release. And then you have Friday, people are taking an off anyway because Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday is Independence Day.
Yeah.
And then you got Janmashtami as
Yes.
well. So it's fabulous, and having on such a long weekend 2 big releases of big stars is fantastic. So looking forward to that.
Do you think that these films will break the jinx that some of the Hindi films have experienced in the last few years? I mean, after Kashmir Files and then Bhool Bhulaiya, which is a mainstream Hindi film, unlike Kashmir Files in May, you've had some really big star-helmed films that have really fallen by the wayside. And given that 50% of your collections are from Hindi cinema, you must be having some analysis that you've made of what's going on here.
Well, to be honest, I'm not reading too much into it. And
You think it's an aberration?
It's an aberration. It's also, again, when Tendulkar used to not score 3 centuries, people used to start panicking and forget about the whole.
Sure.
There are some incredibly talented actors, directors, producers out there. It's only been 4 months since we opened. It's too soon to draw conclusions. Same pattern, what used to happen pre-pandemic. That some movies connect with the audiences, some movies don't connect with the audiences. It's the same thing just now. That's the beauty of the Indian market. There's so much diversity. You will have a big movie suddenly not doing well, but then you'll have a sleeper hit. So if you look at Kashmir Files, was a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Bhool Bhulaiya, the actor is still very new. I would say is a sleeper hit. It's not like a big budget movie. Then you had Gangubai, which was, helmed by Alia Bhatt. And it's, so again, it has done very well. The Hindi versions of RRR, Hindi versions of KGF2 have done well. So it's not as if the Hindi-speaking audience is not coming out. So I've not got impacted. With, at least the first quarter has shown us that because Hindi movies haven't done well. Because Hindi audiences have gone, but they've seen a content which was made by the South Indian producers as an Indian film.
So there's a lot of talk about, okay, the southern producers and content creators and filmmakers are getting it right. The big Hindi films and the mainstream studios are not really getting it right. So there's a lot of talk. Give me a little bit more insight of what you think is going on.
I think it's, I think it's rubbish, absolutely. I just think that people very soon, they draw conclusions which are totally unsubstantiated. As I said, even pre-pandemic, this trend was there. You could have a movie of a big star not doing well. So content has to connect with the audiences. Sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't resonate.
So you're saying there's no need for the Hindi film industry to do some collective and individual soul searching about why a spate of films have not done well?
No, I think individually, not collective. I think individually, every producer will obviously get disappointed if a movie doesn't do well. And I think individually he'll introspect, he'll say, okay, what did I do wrong? So I think that too everybody should do. Doesn't matter which business you're in. But I think scripts are important, understanding what the audiences are looking for are important. So regardless of whether it's a regional film, whether it is a Hindi film, whether it's a Hollywood film, I think that you have to do. You have to, the audience's tastes are really changing and evolving all the time. And so that you have to do, because all the infrastructure that we are building is for the movies. So if the movies are not doing well and people are not connecting with it, then there's a problem. But I don't worry about that so much, because the diversity and the quantity of films. If we were only having, so I was giving the example of some international chains, and when I talked to them, Hollywood used to make about 120 odd movies a year. But this year they're releasing about 65 movies only. So that's worrisome for all those markets which are only dependent on Hollywood. India is still making 900 movies.
And
so it's
plus the Hollywood releases
plus
that we
Hollywood.
get.
So it basically evens itself out. I've always noticed that suddenly you say, oh wow, Andhadhun has done exceedingly well, or Razi has done very well. So if one big star movie hasn't done well, something is there to compensate for it. You get concerned if a movie doesn't do well, but you don't get that concerned that you start writing off a whole industry.
Right. You all had your first quarter for FY23 results, and there were great revenues. I think just a little short of 1,000 crores, some 981 crores. Are you back to pre-pandemic levels, in terms of people coming back? Because clearly the ticket price and the amount of money people are spending in cinemas has come good. But are people back in terms of numbers and volumes and footfalls?
We were almost there pre-pandemic. We're not comparing 20 and 21. 2019, I think maybe 5% less. Maybe, I don't know, that much. But definitely the revenues were higher, because for 2 years we didn't take any ticket price hike. So a lot of people talk about that you took a big hike, but they forget that 2 years, even when we were shut, inflationary pressures were still on. And therefore, suddenly, if they compare 2019 to 2022, obviously there is a jump. But that compensated. Our F&B revenues were fabulous. That compensated. In fact, our advertising revenues haven't kicked in the way they were pre-pandemic, because people are still a little skittish about, and that will get okay in second quarter and third quarter. So I'm quite okay. I mean, I'm very, very happy. In coming to 90% or 95% of your pre-pandemic levels, suddenly, in the first quarter itself, I mean, one can't ask for anything better.
You have spent a lot of effort, accelerated by the pandemic years, in reimagining the movie-going experience. So technology, whether it's screen formats, audio, different audio technology, multi-sensory screens, so you can in sync with the thrills in the movies. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is gleaming marble cuisine, different international cuisines. It's a completely different lifestyle experience. So technological, and then the ambience and lifestyle. Would you agree if I said that movie going and multiplex viewing is now becoming a premium experience, as a result of which maybe the average middle class Indian family, you also mentioned inflationary pressures, may be getting priced out of this experience? Is there a thought there, and are you concerned about it because your numbers would come in from large families?
I would respectfully disagree.
Okay,
simply because the whole idea of PVR was to create a chain, a cinema chain, for lack of a better word, which addresses the heterogeneous market and the disparate market that India is. So at every price point there's a consumer, and I was very keen to get everybody, the entire disparate market to watch movies whichever way they want to.
Sure.
So they can sit at home. I have nothing against if they want to put their feet up and watch a movie at home. But I also want to have them come out and watch the movie on the big screen, because a lot of effort gets put into the way the movies are made. So there's a market for where you're sitting, of people who have home theaters in their basements, who have big plasma screens. To get them out, I really need to give a very, very luxurious experience. So that is what our the luxury TLC division, the luxury collection is, and where we're sitting just now. This is really for
director's cut.
Director's cut, where the farmhouse, people in the farmhouses, big homes are there. Because they need that kind of level of service. They need it to look very different to their screens at home. They need that hospitality staff. They need food and beverage, which is of a certain, but that's only 10% of my revenues, 10% of my seat capacity. Our average ticket price, if you look at our first quarter results, is still 250 rupees. So 250, so people take this back at home and think that this is the average ticket price. So 250 rupees is not much for the most of the audiences that I'm attracting. And when I say that's the average, which means that we still have shows Monday to Thursday,
and
which are flexible
timings,
pricing, different timings, which are priced even at 100 rupees. I'm very conscious of that, because if you build a almost 900 screens portfolio, and I want to address 100 million people, I can't outprice myself. So I have to be very, very careful how we price it. We also have blockbuster pricing. We also have popular movie pricing and normal movie pricing. Because if I outprice myself, people will not come. So I am very conscious of it. But at the same time, I don't want to short sell what we're doing as well.
Of course.
And I also don't want to be victimized by the fact that only 1990 single screens with ticket price control were there. So we still have that very, in our recent memory, that ticket prices were controlled all over the country. In fact, even today in AP and Tamil Nadu, ticket prices are controlled. So people still remember that. And entertainment tax was 60%. And cinemas were closing down. 1,500 screens used to close down. So what happened, and that format was very different. That format was a mom and pop format, or a pop and son format, where people had their own property. They never took the notional value of the real estate. So therefore there was no rent. One 30,000 square feet building had one projection system, one sound system. 30,000 square feet building was not fully air conditioned. Only this hall used to be air cooled, auditorium. The rest was all whatever. I'm victimized because that is still in people's memory, recent memory, but they don't realize the whole format has changed now. Now I'm in a mall and I have to pay rent the way any other retailer has to pay. Plus the same 30,000 square feet, I have to carve out 6 screens. I have 6 projection systems, 6 sound systems. And the expectation of people is much more now, because they want hygiene, they want quality of food. So suddenly your capex and your opex increases dramatically, and therefore there's no choice but to then price accordingly. So that will take some time.
Do you see going forward different theatres, different multiplexes offering at different price points? So it's in one multiplex that you would have different price points and different screens?
Depends where I am. For example, we are in Nanded, Ujjain, Aurangabad, Latur. So there it's all priced equally. Of course, the changes are only during weekdays and peak shows and off-peak shows. Maybe a row of recliners. You'll be surprised. If I don't put a recliner, even in a small town, suddenly
the expectation is there that it should be there.
Recliner should be there. So there we've started adding recliners. So there the pricing will be similar. But then in a very, like Dwarka for example, I've got like 2 Lux cinemas, 1 IMAX, 1 4DX, and then 7 normal screens. So there are India is such a peculiar demographic that wherever we go, when we study the market, we realize, oh, there's a market for Lux also, but the bulk of the market is for normal screens. So there I'll have under one roof different formats.
I get it.
So horses for courses. So you have to acclimatize your offering depending upon where you are. But we are not finding that people are complaining about, people are more time poor than cash poor. I'm not undermining the the importance of pricing correctly.
We are seeing a continuing inflationary trend in the economy. Food, you mentioned food and beverages as being a pretty critical part of your revenue stream today in the multiplex business. Food becoming expensive. In that context, do you see, demand for movie going getting a little dampened in this current inflationary context?
In my experience, at least, is that people are not straight-jacketed to do only one thing. So one day they'll become very cost-conscious and sit at home, put their feet up and they say, I haven't seen Gangubai, I missed it, let's watch it. Another day when they've got disposable time and disposable income over the weekend, they'll say, I just want to get out, I want to enjoy myself. I cannot travel maybe, I cannot do a very luxurious meal or can't buy something which is more than what I, just some... more than what is a necessity, but I don't mind spending money and really putting my feet up and watching a nice Aamir Khan movie or a Akshay movie. So I find that people are doing everything, and which is what my argument or my reasoning even during the pandemic was, that people are not straight-jacketed. I have to continue to invest in technology on the experience. If I don't give a good experience, then of course I'm in trouble. But if I continue to show the differentiation between watching something at home and watching it on the big screen, then I'll always be something different to what is happening at home. The other thing I must mention is that during the first quarter, whatever results we got were in the 4-week window, and yet people came. So people could have seen Gangubai in 4 weeks on the OTT platform. They could have seen Kashmir Files in 4 weeks, Bhool Bhulaiya, all these movies in 4 weeks' time, especially down south. There is no windows at all. Yet people came to the cinemas. It only shows the incredible appetite of the Indian moviegoer to go out and enjoy himself and see the movie on the big screen. And now it is basically 8 weeks. And they have to, it's a contractual obligation. And they, in fact, the funny thing is, I don't know whether you picked it up, it came in Business Standard, and obviously in the trade it happened. They are the ones who said that let's go back to 8 weeks. Because the movie was continuously running very well in the cinemas. But suddenly the movie got released in OTT and the revenues came down. So what happens is, like, all of us are sitting and we'll say, oh, I want to watch, I don't know why I keep saying Gangubai. Let's say any movie. I want to watch this movie. Oh, I don't have time this weekend or next weekend. By the time you got the time and the word of mouth and your friends and your family told it's a great movie to watch, it was out. So people still wanted to get that cinematic experience. And the consumers suffered, the producers suffered, because they were getting a very good run at the box office. So they said, let's go back to 8 weeks. And therefore now the run is completely, so there's no end to the potential box office. Whereas when you sell to OTT, it's that's it. There is no rev share.
It's the fee that you get, I mean, whatever they paid for it up front.
And at the same time, I must make it very clear to everybody, your viewers also, that there are movies which are only made for OTT. I'm not talking about those. So like Darlings or something, I haven't seen it as yet, and I'm going to watch it. I've heard good things about it. That was only made for the OTT platform. So when movies are only made for OTT, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about movies which are meant for a proper theatrical release, and then they are going through that whole journey.
Globally, there seems to be a rationalization and a drop in subscribers where streaming services are concerned. Do you see that impact the competitive pressures they have in India to acquire subscribers, and therefore great content and therefore movies in competition with theaters?
I mean, like I said, if you look at it from producer's point of view, it depends on what are they making the content for. If it's a TV show, for example, that's what was pre-pandemic. TV shows, long-form storytelling. So TV shows are meant for OTT. People enjoy one episode, second. They want to see the whole story get unfolded. This movie trend only has started now, or it happened during the pandemic. Now producers have realized that they're leaving too much money on the table. If they made a movie for a certain budget and straight away they give it to, in fact today somebody told me that Darling should have got released on the big screen.
I was thinking, because I've seen Darlings, and I thought that, look at how interesting, how much change has happened. When you launched PVR as a multiplex 25 years ago, Darlings would have been a multiplex film.
But there's still many of them.
Yeah, but I'm saying, the small film, the niche audience, and today I think the multiplexes have to give you the big spectacle film.
I disagree totally.
Really?
How's Kashmir Files then played?
Kashmir Files is a political film.
No,
it's a
no.
very different
There's so many political
film in
films that
its,
haven't done.
of the time.
There's so many political films that haven't done well.
Okay.
It's a good content. So when the producer makes a movie, he doesn't look at that this movie, in fact the movie that I saw yesterday, last night, Raksha Bandhan, small budget. Of course Akshay is there,
Yeah.
small budget. It's a very nice, I really liked it. I'm not biased from that point of view. I want every movie to do well. Made in Chandni Chowk. Easily anybody can say that this should have gone to OTT. Again, I'm going to give the same examples of, Shiv Mangal, Savdhan, so many movies that came, small budget. But they did 150 crores on the box office. So producer says that when I release my movie, it's good content, doesn't matter how much it was made for. If it gets released on the big screen, and big screen I'm talking about, not big seating capacity.
I get it.
So we have to be very clear. So I'm talking about...
And most filmmakers want to see their film on the big screen,
therefore,
isn't it?
when we say multiplexes, we're not talking about 1,000-seater cinemas. We're talking about maybe 150-seater cinema,
So
250-seater cinema.
You are quite emphatic about the fact that the small niche multiplex
I
film
love those
still
movies.
has a home
Absolutely.
in theatres, in
absolutely,
multiplexes.
Absolutely.
And they are not all just going
Unequivocally.
to go to streaming.
No way, they can't. It doesn't make sense.
And it's not that...
Unless they're made for OTT. You see,
Right,
I'm just...
that's different. But I'm saying there is home for
100%,
those films in theatres like this.
Absolutely. Because, look at my
It's
capacities.
not just the RRRs and the
not
KGFs.
At all, not at all. We are, as I said, we've got diversity of content. And that's the beauty of India. And the releasing of the movies on the in the theatres that removes that gap. The potential gets... If you have a OTT, if you have a small movie and you've given it to a OTT platform straight away, then you'll never get the upside because you get a fixed fee and you played. Here you have an opportunity, if you're very confident about your content, to play it in 300, 400, 500, 1,000 screens in India, not PVR, across the country. And sky's the limit. It'll keep on running forever. So you get much more, which is what I was saying that people tasted pre-pandemic when they were releasing these small movies. And suddenly they realized, my God, I only spent 15 crores on this movie. It's 150 crores. Why would anybody leave that on the table?
Earlier this year, this big announcement that I think took most people by surprise, the INOX merger. I think you've got some clearances, you've got the NCLT clearance still going to come in. When do you see this, when do we see this merged entity? Will it be after this financial year? When will you start reporting together? I think that's what...
Yeah, I mean, the process, they say after NCLT, we'll just file the application. It takes about 5 months, 5 to 6 months. So far, NSC and BSC, which is a big one, those approvals have already come.
Right.
And then only after that, sequentially, you file in for the to NCLT. So that's already been done. But at least what I've been told by my legal team and by my CFO is that it takes about 5 to 6 months.
I've heard you say that the theatres that are branded PVR will remain that way, INOX will remain that way. It's only after the merger gets finalized and you're a combined entity, the new screens and the multiplexes will be called PVR-INOX. How will the two brands that exist independently be seen in the portfolio? Will they have different personas? How are you seeing it? Because you're a passionate brand custodian. I saw that lovely Amir Khan film you've released to celebrate 25 years of PVR Cinemas.
Correct. No, of course, I'm extremely passionate about what I'm doing, and but at the same time, I'm running a listed company. I am responsible to my shareholders, and we have to create value. The balance sheet of both the companies had got completely battered during the pandemic, and we realized that if we come together, we'll make the company much stronger. I would even go to say this much, that I think the entire exhibition industry would have got impacted. The pace of growth of screens would have got halted. So I think with coming together, and this business is all about scale, and I think the company entity will become much stronger. I think it was prudent to think that PVR currently branded 900 odd screens, or maybe there'll be 1,000 by the time the merger happens.
By the end of this year, I think you have 100.
125 screens are under fit out currently. And so we felt that we should deploy the capital, the accruals and whatever, into new screens. So just now if we go about changing the brand, whether INOX or PVR, it's a waste of money. And both circuits are quite high quality. But the future screens which will come up, we thought we'll call them PVR-INOX. And this happened in the West also, when companies are merged or acquired. That then you can have some sort of a descriptor. That suppose PVR Cinemas, you can have part of PVR-INOX. and INOX Cinema part of PVR INOX.
Got
So
it.
that's what we'll do. But we will try to give the consumer a consistency in
Across
the experience.
the-
Yeah. We must do that because if it's one company, one entity, then we will give that.
Do you
consumer
feel
experience.
a bit sad to not see PVR by itself, given how you built the brand and the passion you have for it?
I mean, one has.
I mean, I
to-
know you'll be in charge. You'll be the managing director running the company.
Correct, correct.
But in terms of your family holding, INOX has the bigger stake now in the combined
Yeah,
entity.
yeah.
How does that work?
I think it was fait accompli. I mean, that's how the journey happened. I was never that crazy about my own shareholding because I really wanted to make a large enterprise. Obviously, in a perfect world, if I had higher shareholding, it would have felt good. But all the acquisitions that I did right from the beginning. In fact, I never owned the company 100% ever because 40% was owned by Village Roadshow.
Yeah.
Then when they left, then Renuka Ramnath through ICICI Venture owned about 47%, 53%. Then all the acquisitions that I did kept diluting
Your
PVR.
stake.
Sorry, the family holding.
Yeah.
And then this was a big, IPL sixer in the end, which had to be done to make a much stronger company. And again, my own family shareholding took a back seat. I realized that it's much better to have a company which is much stronger. And but if I do a good job, it doesn't really matter. Because honestly, I think I would argue that it leads to complacency. If you have a very large shareholding, you can even say, wow, so now nobody can touch me, special resolution, ordinary resolution, because I would say I have to work harder now. Because if you have to make, at a lower shareholding, so currently also we're at 17%, I better do a good job if I have to be so now I'm always on my toes.
Ajay Bijli, thank you very much.
Thank
I wish
you.
you a great deal of good luck and
Thanks very
enjoy the
much.
25 years that you have put into creating PVR Cinemas.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.